The town of Black Hollow was nestled deep in the woods, a place forgotten by time. Its air was thick with a silence that seemed unnatural, as if the land itself was holding its breath. The streets, lined with old, sagging houses, bore the weight of something unseen. At the heart of the town stood an ancient well covered in moss, its bricks cracked and crumbling with age. No one dared go near it. The townsfolk spoke of it in hushed voices, warning newcomers never to listen if they heard whispers from the dark depths. But no one ever explained why. Elias Carter, a journalist with a hunger for the unknown, arrived in Black Hollow, determined to uncover the truth. He had heard stories of the town's strange history, people vanishing without a trace, eerie voices calling at night, and dreams that drove men to madness. As he wandered through the town, he noticed how the residents avoided his gaze, their eyes filled with unspoken fear. An old man at the tavern muttered, "You shouldn't have come," before quickly turning away. Elias had seen fear before, but this was different. It was as if the town itself was alive, watching him, waiting. That night, he booked a small room in the only inn available. The walls were thin, and the wind outside howled like a wounded beast. Just as he was drifting into uneasy sleep, a sound pulled him back. A faint whisper, distant, yet clear. It was coming from outside, from the well. Elias grabbed his coat and stepped into the cold, moonlit night. The well loomed before him like an open mouth, its darkness impenetrable. As he leaned in, the whispers grew clearer. It was not one voice, but many, overlapping in a chilling symphony of sorrow. "Help us," they pleaded, their words stretching and twisting like something in pain. His heart pounded as he shone his flashlight into the abyss, but the beam barely penetrated the darkness. The whispers became frantic, desperate. Then, just as he turned to leave, he heard his own name being called from below. He stumbled back, his breath coming in ragged gasps. How could it know his name? The town's fear suddenly made sense. This was not just an old well. It was something far worse. He needed answers. The next morning, he sought out the oldest resident of the town, a frail woman named Margaret Holloway. She hesitated at first, but finally relented, her voice trembling as she spoke. "Long ago, Black Hollow was cursed," she whispered. "A traveler, much like you, came asking questions. He was warned, but he did not listen. One night, he disappeared, and the whispers began. People say the well is a door, a hungry thing that takes what it wants. If it calls your name, you are already doomed." Elias refused to believe it. He was a man of reason, but doubt crept into his mind like a slow poison. That night, sleep did not come easily. The wind outside was still, but inside his room, he heard them, the whispers. They were closer now, as if they had seeped through the walls, curling around him like unseen fingers. He squeezed his eyes shut, willing himself not to listen. But then, the voice changed. It was his mother's. "Come to me, Elias," she called, her voice thick with sorrow. His mother had been dead for years. The rational part of his mind screamed that this was a trick, but the child in him longed to believe. Trembling, he stepped out into the night once more, drawn to the well like a moth to flame. The town was eerily silent, every house dark, as if the entire place was holding its breath. He stood at the edge, peering down. The whispers swirled, a chorus of agony and longing. Then, a hand shot up from the darkness, cold, skeletal fingers wrapped around his wrist. He gasped, struggling to break free, but the grip was impossibly strong. The voices grew louder, screaming now, their agony bleeding into his mind. Shadows twisted beneath him, shifting into forms he could not comprehend. He felt himself being pulled forward, the ground beneath his feet tilting as if the well itself was swallowing him whole. Just before he fell, a powerful force yanked him backward. He crashed onto the ground, gasping for air. Margaret stood over him, clutching a rusted silver locket in her hands. The whispers receded, hissing like a wounded beast retreating into the dark. She helped him up, her eyes filled with sorrow. "It almost had you," she murmured. "You need to leave, now." Elias didn't argue. He packed his things, leaving before dawn, his mind plagued with the echoes of the voices. As he drove away, he dared one last glance in the rearview mirror. The well stood as it always had, silent and waiting. But deep within its shadows, something shifted. And then, barely above the sound of the wind, he heard it again, his name. The well was still hungry, and it never stopped calling.